Welcome to part two of series versus parallel. All I have done here is I've just wired up a battery so that the positive flows into the positive of the breadboard, negative flows into the negative of the breadboard, and that's it. So everything else is the same. So this side over here is powered, and I want to talk about the difference between series and parallel on a breadboard because that's how we'll see it. So first, let's power up one of these lines. So now power comes up through here into line 24 on this side. We need to use one of these LEDs to go from here across, and we want to make sure that the anode, that this flows into the anode but not the cathode, right? So the cathode is up here on line 23, so that's where it flows out. And in series, again, there is no decision making. So if I put, let's say, it up here, then electricity flows up through this, up through here, through this wire, comes in this anode, out this cathode. These are all linked underneath. So maybe if I put it out here in front, might be a little bit easier. So as long as the anode is here on line 24, when the electricity flows into the anode and out the cathode, it connects to everything on line 24. So it'll go into the anode, out the cathode here, and then I just need to give it an exit. And so these two LEDs are in series. And the reason that we say they are in series is because no decision is being made. Electricity flows in here, across the wire, in the anode, out the cathode, in this anode, out the cathode, out this wire, and then goes home to the negative. And if we hit go, we see, oh, it just barely turns on, right? If we grab this guy, it's frozen again, right? Just barely turns on. Look at that. If I turn it on and off a couple times, you can kind of see it. And a third one, so you can also highlight elements and copy and paste them. So if I do a third one, we have to get rid of this wire. So now these three are in series because, again, electricity comes up the positive, here in the anode, out the cathode, in the anode, out the cathode, in the anode, out the cathode, and then I need to give it an exit. So these three are in series because no decision is being made. In one anode, out the cathode, into another anode. And what happens when we start simulation? Absolutely nothing, just as when we had three in series without the breadboard. So what does parallel look like? Well, my guess is parallel looks, well, parallel. So let's start from the back. If we have just one, and we'll wire up just one, power comes in the positive, up this line, line number 24, in the anode, out the cathode, through this wire, and then out here. And so when I turn this on, it should turn on and it should give me the warning. Parallel is, well, what if I put a second one right there? Now power comes in here, across the wire, and then it has to decide, does it jump into this anode and go into this LED, or does it continue along the wire and go into this anode and this back LED? Because there has to be a decision, that is called parallel. And you'll notice that the elements are also still parallel to each other, but they're kind of parallel, side by side parallel. Okay, I've snuck a third one in there. It's kind of hard to see, but it is also parallel. Power comes in, goes across the wire, now has to choose, does it go into this anode, or this third anode hiding back here? I don't know. Let's see. Oh, it goes into all three, and all three light up. So these three are considered parallel in the breadboard. Now, it's a little hard to see, so I'm going to wire it slightly differently. just so you can see it a little bit better, I'm going to spread these out a little bit. Now, unfortunately, to do that, I have to wire this up because this trough breaks the connections. There's no electricity that crosses this trough. So I just put some wires across the trough. And now electricity flows in, comes here, says, hey, I could go in this anode, out this cathode, and then go home. Or I could continue along, jump over this wire, go in this cathode, or sorry, this anode, go out this cathode, go home through this wire. Or continue along and go into this anode. So these three are parallel. If I hit start simulation, they all light up. We'll see that they all have the same issue, 28.5, 28.5, 28.5 milliamps going through them. And if I remove this wire, then these are no longer connected because nothing goes through this trough. And here, now we would see that as 61.9 milliamps. So it's very normal for things to be put in series and parallel, depending on how you want the electricity to flow, and we'll be using both. But it looks very different on a breadboard than it does kind of out in open space. So I wanted you to see both. There it is.